So I had a very expensive warm blood dressage horse who was a nightmare to travel. I owned him for 7 years and really didn't achieve anything that I wanted to achieve with him because getting him on a float for the start was difficult, and then transporting him was dangerous for me. It was dangerous for him, dangerous for other users on the road. He was so bad in the float that I'd often struggled to keep the car straight. So I was really desperate to find a solution for our problems with floating. I got to designing a float for Freddie because he was still driving me nuts in my current float, and that's when we designed our very first model, which was the Frederick. So when my float arrived, the first trip with Freddie was a great success. I was competing again. And people were just amazed that a float that was specifically designed for a horse could have such an impact. So people started asking me about whether or not I could design floats for their horses, and I soon realised that every horse is different, every owner is different, and I think that's when we decided that there was a real opportunity for a business here.
We had quite a bit of beginner's luck in the beginning, I think, and it was probably because Alex is so well connected in the horse world with all sorts of different dressage divas, and so they saw her beautiful new float and how many great things it was doing for her horse, which was a really bad traveller up until that time. So we got a lot of sales from those people who are immediate family and friends and referrals and recommendations. But after a period of probably around about 6 months, that flattened out substantially, and we started to realise at that point that we had a website that was really just an online brochure that didn't have any element to it to help convert any sales. It didn't really establish any degree of trust. We thought we could improve that by doing some AdWords on Google, and that really yielded no results whatsoever, simply because AdWords did drive traffic to it, but at the end of the day, if you haven't got a site that converts, it doesn't really matter how much traffic you do get. I realised that in the end. Honestly, I heard about Street Smart when I was still working as a property developer in commercial property, quite a few years before we started this business. At the time, I could see that a lot of the things that were being taught were absolutely perfect for the horse float business.
And I felt we really needed something that would really set us apart. And the biggest element that was missing in our business was the trust element, because all of these floats looked the same. They varied in build quality. There was starting to be some pretty ordinary stories getting around in the industry. So I felt that at that stage we needed something, and James had been to a seminar with Mel a couple of years ago and had mentioned the Shock and Awe, and I'd seen one from a pool company, and I think at that point that was the tipping point that really resonated, that we needed to get into this thing and get the Shock and Awe done. So about at the same time that we got our first print run of the Shock and Awe, our website became live as well, and almost overnight I saw a massive increase in the number of phone calls I was receiving, emails I was receiving, and because we have so many videos on our website and we've got the downloadable version of the Shock and Awe plus the hard copy, when people were calling me, they were speaking to me as though they already knew me, and so I'd already had already developed a huge amount of trust. So our sales initially spiked quite significantly because I think we dealt with that trust issue, which was the big elephant in the room with imported floats that we were having a problem with. So in our first year was beginner's luck. Second year, we did okay. Third year it really began to plateau, and that was when it became a bit concerning for us. And last year, the first half of last year was abysmal. I mean, the Australian dollar started to drop a little bit. But we already had the Shock and Awe underway, and we were really waiting on that to become live. So middle of last year we had sold maybe 10 floats in 6 months. But July the Shock and Awe became live. We had hard copies of that. Our website became live, and then in the last 6 months of last year we sold about 24 floats. So we doubled our sales in 6 months. And this year we've doubled again, so we've quadrupled our sales since last July.
My biggest thing out of all of this has been the mentorship that we get in the environment, and it's been life changing. And I know I've heard, you've probably heard Mel and Ian say that it'll change your life, but it actually really does. It's I think Alex would agree with me that our biggest regret is that we didn't do it sooner. God, I'm going to tell you now, the amount of stress and worry I'd have with property compared to horse floats, it's like a drop in the bucket. I've slept better than I've ever slept in my life, to be honest.